Time to be super nerdy about sci-fi things again. Last time I talked about space battles, this time we're talking about the top 5 hero ships in sci-fi. Number 5, Serenity. Spoiler alert and apologies to Star Wars fans, but the Millennium Falcon is not on this list. I know it's well loved, but if we're talking about old rust buckets, I have to give this one to Serenity. Sure, the Millennium Falcon is old and a bit unreliable, but it still looks cool, goes like shit off a shovel, and even has, well, weapons. Serenity seems purposely designed to be none of that. It's a rusty, ugly looking ship with no defensive capabilities to speak of. Its one ace in the hole is literally its knack for running away very quickly, but it's the economical no-frills, cobbled together look of the interior and chunky silhouette which creates the charm. The way in which the diverse crew have really made a home in this space adds a lot of texture and intrigue to the ship. It feels warm and homely like nothing else. There are many nicer looking and advanced ships, but for Captain Reynolds and company, having this old thing to fly them around outweighs all of the drawbacks. Number 4, the Battlestar Galactica. Making the titular craft an outdated, partially converted museum for the rebooted show was a great way of stacking the odds even further against our protagonists. The weathered, weary hull of the carrier battleship hybrid tells a story in itself, adding texture to the iconic silhouette of the original design with a grounded sense of functionality. The lack of a reset button also takes a toll on the ship as the craters and breaches from various battles mount up across the hull, hammering this tough as hell ship until breaking point. It's a ship which goes on fighting long past its prime, and when its ultimate fate is secured, we feel the same heartbreak that Adama feels. Galactica seemed capable of surviving through anything, but eventually all good things have to come to an end. But at least this awesome ship got to kick ass one last time. Number 3, the Rocinante. Hey, remember when The Expanse got cancelled? That was fucking weird. Another reason to love that show is to see how our ragtag group of heroes have taken their humble Martian gunship and made it into their one constant in a rapidly and violently changing universe. What begins as a simple escape from another awesome space battle sequence becomes the one safe harbour and chance at making a difference to the larger story unfolding before our main characters. Having lost the Canterbury and then bouncing from an escape pod to the Donager, finding a home on the modest gunship gives our heroes the means to fight, but also doesn't make them powerful enough to take on their true villains in a head-on fight. As I mentioned in my Space Battles video, the Rocinante's clash with the stealth ship is an awesome set piece because of how down to the wire it is. The craft itself is a wonderfully simple design, but the small stature of the ship slowly builds up its charm as the crew narrowly escapes death-defying stunts and battles on a weekly basis. The Rocinante truly is the little ship that could. Number 2, the Normandy SR-2. I am a big fan of the SR-1 from the first game, and to see it utterly annihilated at the beginning of Mass Effect 2 perfectly sets the stage for one of my favourite video games. But the triumphant return and redesign for the SR-2 had the ship looking bigger and better than ever before. Thanks to Cerberus money, the ship is brighter, more spacious, and more personal to the player. More spaces means more characters for the player to get to know, and a more comfortable place for Shepard to relax in. The upgrade system for the ship also helps the player grow attached to the SR-2 better than ever before. While building up the weapons and engines for the suicide mission, we also build up our model collection and feed some fish for good measure, or at least we hope to remember to feed our fish. The larger frame but more streamlined look gives the SR-2 a more distinctive and iconic silhouette than the SR-1, and I will simply never grow tired of strolling around the decks of a ship I truly feel in command of. It says something about a ship when it's often more fun to stay inside than it is to leave. Now before number 1, I just wanted to give an honourable mention shout out to the TARDIS. Although I think of it as a time machine first and a spaceship second, and its use within the Doctor Who plots is often the embodiment of Deus Ex Machina, the TARDIS is a delightfully bizarre image and a wonderfully creative concept. It's bigger on the inside is a neat idea with endless potential for story possibilities and adding depth to the rich mythology of the Doctor Who universe. But while it's incredibly creative, I could never really become attached to the TARDIS the way I have with other ships on this list. Speaking of such, number 1, the USS Enterprise. I'm probably super biased here, and this is a very, very obvious choice, but it simply couldn't have been anything else in my mind. The USS Enterprise is the science fiction hero ship, going boldly where no one has gone before like nothing else did. Although I have a fondness for the Galaxy class, I gotta give this one to the original Constitution class vessel. Whether it be the original series, the movie refit, or the sleeker Kelvin timeline redesigns, I simply adore this ship. The Enterprise is what the term starship porn was made for. Matt Jeffries' original modular design perfectly encapsulates the spacefaring equivalent of a tall ship of the stars. There's virtually no possible camera angle to make this thing look ugly. It's elegant, distinctive, and with all the bells and whistles for the best of humanity to utilise. It looks great, It sounds great, and just like the noble captains who have commanded it, you can't help falling in love with it. And there we have it. If you like these videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on new uploads. Over on my Patreon, you can see videos up to a week early for as little as $5 a month. Speaking of which, I'd like to quickly thank my patrons T. Stoney, Andy Luke, L. Carton, Millie Coleman, Snezhana Markova, Larry Bennett, James, and new $10 patron Chris Lord. Until next time, thank you for watching, have a good one, and as always, live long and prosper.